Hey guys, it's Miss Quirella here. So we're doing direct variation notes today. Make sure you have your journal and pencil, or you can take notes in your OneNote class notebook. And we are going to start with the EQ, but before that I wanted to let y'all know that I will be using 3 different colors today. So if you have 3 different colors, if you have these specific colors, dark blue, teal, and pink, perfect. If you don't have any colors, that's totally fine as well. You can take notes with your pencil, okay? So this is a fairly new concept, but you guys have heard setting up a proportion, like you have done that and you did some practice yesterday. So it shouldn't be completely new, but it's pretty new, okay? So just follow along with me, and whenever we get to the examples down here at the middle section, it will make sense. It will all come together, okay? So just be patient and just follow along as I go through the top part of the notes. Okay, as I explain the vocabulary. All right, so our EQ for today, I'm going to write at the top, is going to be, how do I set up a proportion? How do I set up a proportion to I think I spelled it correctly. Proportion to find missing coordinate. Missing coordinate. Okay. All right, so y, the y value varies directly as x. Okay, that's what direct variation is. Y varies directly as x, and it looks like y equals kx, okay, where k equals, or k is the unit rate. Unit rate just means for one unit or for one thing, how much is something worth. So for, unit rate would be, for 1 pound of apples, it costs $1.50. So that's the unit rate because it's for 1 pound, okay? That's the basic concept. And k and x are being multiplied, guys. If there is no sign in between two numbers or letters, they're being multiplied, okay? And let's move on here. So a direct variation is a relationship in which our x and y quantities increase or decrease at the same rate. Okay, so that same rate, guys, is basically the k that we talked about up here. And let's just add that k also stands for constant of variation, meaning it stays the same. So hence, the same rate is basically referring to the letter k. Okay, in our equation, this is called an equation. If something is set equal to something, that's called an equation in math. Okay. All right, so important. This information right here is super important. Direct variation relationships are proportional. And proportional means it will have y equals kx. Okay, the value of y equals the unit rate times the value of x. Okay, and they always go through the origin or the point 0, 0. So what this means is, in 7th grade, you should have seen a coordinate grid where I'm just going to do a rough sketch here, where it looks like this. It's a graph, and we have our x in the horizontal, the across direction, and then we have our y in the vertical or up and down direction, okay? So what proportional means is your graph for y equals kx would go through the origin, meaning 0, 0. This point right here, which is 0, 0, okay? That's all that there is to it. Okay, so we know that in a direct variation relationship, as y or x increases or decreases, the other one does the same thing. That's the basic relationship, okay? So let's look at examples and how we solve for the missing coordinate by setting up a proportion, which is our essential question, okay? So y varies directly with x, guys. I'm going to start by boxing our keywords varies directly. That looks like y over x, and this is basically a proportion, okay? So whenever you see varies directly or directly varies or direct variation, any of those combination of words, you need to automatically think, oh, I need to set up a proportion, okay? Proportion, which is y over x, okay? And our question is find the missing coordinate given 4, 10 and 6, y. Okay, so the 4, 10 is our first proportion. We're going to use those numbers to set up our first proportion. And then the 6, y is going to be used for our second proportion. Okay. And if you remember from 7th grade, a coordinate pair is always in the form x, y. The x comes first in the alphabet also, so you always go x, y. So 4 is your x value and 10 is your y value because 4, 10 is a coordinate pair. So this coordinate pair has both of the coordinates, 4 and 10, or x and y, but this one only has our x coordinate. It is missing the y coordinate. And that's what it asks us to find, okay? And to do that, we set up a proportion because the value of y varies directly with x, and varies directly tells you to set up a proportion, okay? So y equals x equals, remember, this is our what section in the one box. So the one box has what is it talking about, what are the quantities, the original numbers, and then the new information. So this is the W section of the one box. Okay, so y over x is what we have, and we are going to have the original information and then our new information. Okay, so the original information is basically the one that has both of the coordinates given, so 4, 10. And am I going to write down the 10, the y value, at the top or the bottom? If you said at the top, you are correct. So we're going to write that at the top, and 4 goes at the bottom because x values are at the bottom, okay? Now, our new information, where does the y go? The y goes at the top because the y values are aligned at the top, okay? And then at the bottom, we have our x value, which is 6. Okay, now I'm going to use these two colors to show you how to solve for that missing missing coordinate y. Okay, so we're going to, when you see a proportion, you need to think cross multiply, right? But what does that even mean? Well, it just means to multiply across, and that is denoted by this bat. We call it the bat. So bat is telling you to multiply, okay? And then this number that's remaining, the 4, is your ball. That is going to be for division, okay? So we multiply by the bat and then divide by the ball, okay? We have denoted that, and over here I'm going to multiply these two numbers because it is a bat, they form a bat, and we have to multiply. So 10 times 6, and then we have our division by the ball, divide by 4, equals that y value, okay? So now it's just simple math, okay? So what's 10 times 6, or 6 times 10? It's 60. And then divide by 4. We just bring it down because we haven't done anything to it. Equals the y value, Well, what is the y value? What is 60 divided by 4? If you use your calculator, you should get 15. Okay, so this is our missing coordinate. I'm going to put a cloud around it because that's our answer. Okay, so this missing coordinate right here is 6, which was already there, and the y value is 15. Okay, and it's in the format x comma y, just like how we said. It has to be in x comma y. Okay, now let's try the second example. I'm going to help you set it up, but I want you guys to try solving it. Okay, so we have, again, y varies directly. If y varies directly with x, find the missing coordinate. And then the coordinates that are given are 7, 8.75. What is the 7? Is that the x or the y? That's correct. It's x, and 8.75 is your y value. And then we have x and 15, where x is x and 15 is the y. Okay, so in this case, we're not finding y. We're actually finding the x coordinate. Okay, so what does varies directly mean? What do we do? Set up a proportion, okay? And we are going to set up our information here, y over x, that's our proportion. And then we're going to have the original numbers and then the new information, okay? So the original information is y value of 8.75. Why did I put 8.75 at the top, guys? Yes, that's correct, because the y values go at the top because the letter y is at the top, okay? And our x value goes at the bottom, which is 7, equals our x value. Where does the x go? Goes at the bottom, and then the 15, the y value goes at the top. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and bat and ball. So when I bat, I am doing what? You are correct, I am multiplying. And what do I do with the ball? I am going to divide by the ball. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do that. 7 times 15. And then we're going to divide by 8.75. Okay, so even though this is a decimal, it's just the same process again, guys. You just multiply and then you divide. Okay, equals y. What is 7 times 15? 7 times 15 should be 105. And then divide by 8.75. I want you guys to get the answer for this and put it in the Edpuzzle, and make sure you write it down in your journal or OneNote as well. Okay? All right, and then also write down what that coordinate is. Remember, x is missing. We have the y. Whenever you get the... Oh, did you catch my mistake, guys? This is equals x. We're finding x, not the y. Okay, if you caught it, you have sharp eyes. All right. Okay, let's move on. So this third example has a fraction. So some of you might be freaking out, but don't freak out. It's the same process, just like how we did with the other ones. We know that if y varies directly with x, we just have to set up that proportion. And then we're finding the missing coordinate again. I'm underlining that. And then we have our first proportion coordinates. So x is 1/3 and y is 2. And then we have our another x and y pair, but the x value is missing here again. Okay? So we're going to again have our proportion set up. Okay, what am I going to put right here where I'm pointing at? If you said 2, you are correct, because that is the original information that we are given. And I put 2 at the top because that's where the y values go, at the top. Okay, and the x value is just 1/3. I just write it down just like that. Okay, equals our y value is 36 here, and our x is the missing coordinate. Okay, all right, so again, let's bat. And we multiply with the bat. and then we take the ball and divide by it. Okay, so it looks like 1/3 times 36 divided by 4. No, divided by 2. Okay, equals x. I remembered it this time, guys. I didn't write y because we're finding the x value. I wrote x. Okay. All right, so 1/3 times 36. Well, you have your calculator. Find what 1/3 is and multiply that by 36. Or I like to think of this as basically we're dividing, or we're separating 36 into 3 equal parts. Okay, so that turns out to be 12, and then we divide by 2, and that is going to give us our x value. So what is x? 12 divided by 2 is, it is 6, which is our x value. Okay, let's put a cloud around it. Okay, so what is our coordinate pair going to look like? What comma what? That's correct, 6 comma 36. Okay. All right, now let's move on to the final one. It's a word problem. I'm gonna help you set it up, and once I'm done helping you set it up, you will see that it looks exactly like this one right here. Okay. All right, so let's read the problem. In Fortnite, the number of shields you collect directly varies. Okay, this time they are saying directly varies instead of varies directly, but it's the same thing. So I'm gonna box that. Directly varies with the amount of building materials you collect. So your shields directly varies with amount of building materials. And in one of the games, so 1 is actually not an important number, so I'm not gonna circle it because it's just talking about a game. Okay, in one game you collected 4 shields and 18 building materials. Now this is important. Okay, 4 shields and 18 building materials. In the next game you collected 6 shields. How many building materials would you expect to collect with 6 shields? Okay, so that's our question. Now let's go ahead and set up our proportion. Well, first of all, we need to know what our x and y are. So we're going to make the number of shields our x value, and then the y is the number of building materials, because it says number of shields varies directly with the building materials. Okay, so it's always going to be y over x. Remember, setting up your proportion because we have directly varies. Okay, equals, we have a proportion here and then another proportion here. So what is our original, or the one that is given to us? What's the y value there? Well, 18 building materials, so I'm going to put a y there because that's building materials, and 4 shields is our x. Okay, so it's 18 over 4. And where am I going to write this 6 shields down? Is this our x or our y? This is our x because it's number of shields, so it goes at the bottom. Okay, so we are finding y, which is the number of building materials. Okay, so same thing, we bat and we ball. Now I want you guys to figure this out on your own. Remember what it means to bat and what it means to ball, and then solve it just like how we did earlier. And then once you are done, you're going to select your answer, final answer, and then we are done with this video. We're going to now work on a practice pair deck, and we are done.